This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, welcome everyone. This time, for real, we're going Parshas Noach, and we're analyzing the pasuk that says that the Yoina returned in the evening with a olive branch in its mouth, and that's when Noach knew that the water had relaxed and calmed on the face of the earth. And the Zohar has an amazing revelation over here. And the Zohar reveals, actually this Zohar is in Parsha Shlach, and Ois Kuf Mem Ches and Ois Kuf Nun, that when the pasuk says about the Yoina, that the Yoina did not return again, so the Torah does not say where the Yoina went, or where the Yoina was hiding, or where it was headed. But the Zohar HaKadosh says it returned to its place. It was hidden in the opening, and it took a crown in its mouth, and it put that crown on the head of Mashiach. Mati v'loy mati uchadein ksiv tashas l'roy she'at terespas. So here it is. You're reading this narrative, and you learned the story so many times. And you know, the first time the dove comes back with the olive branch, and it's a symbol of peace, and the second time the dove doesn't return, and you don't make much of it, but the Zohar reveals where did the dove go. The dove went to a secret hideout, and he took a crown in his mouth, and he crowned the king of Mashiach. Now, what in the world does the end of the Hamabul got to do with the crowning of Mashiach? I don't see anything about Mashiach over here in Parshas Noach. It would seem a little anticlimactic. The whole world is being destroyed. It's a very sad time for mankind. God has to destroy the animals, the trees, the bears, everything. The fish were the only thing that survived, but all of the entire creation was destroyed. And here it is, the dove is going, and undercover he's crowning Mashiach. Says the Zohar weiter, David Malka, David the king, Zayis Ranan Ikri Kamei Kotchebrichu. He's called a ever fresh olive branch. D'chsiv ani kezayis ra'anan bebayis. Ale Zayis. Now, Ale Zayis, I know you're very excited about the new Sefer on Rav Meir that was published by Ale Zayis, and nothing is coincidental. Maybe that's why it took them till Parshas Noach. But Ale Zayis, da Malka Mashiach, Brei de David. Ale Zayis refers to King Mashiach, the son of David. V'da ihu de Ramez Yoina da biyoyme de Noach. This is the illusion of this dove in the times of Noach. D'chsiv v'hinei Ale Zayis taraf b'fiyah. When it says there was an olive branch grabbed in its mouth, hahu Ale Zayis, this olive branch, taraf v'chataf liyikra dilei, it grabbed for his honor, b'meh, with what? B'piyah, in her mouth, d'kaima al reishe, and he put it on his head. U'mekablo yakom hayoyno Mashiach, it receives honor from this dove. V'haydechsiv taraf, this that it says taraf, v'loy tarfa, k'dechura da, da'avid chela v'netzach. Okay, the bottom line is, something messianic is going on over here. We thought that the dove was just a messenger pigeon or something. No, this is a significant dove. This dove brought an olive branch. This olive branch represents David Amalek, and then the dove went and crowned the Mashiach. What in the world does this have to do with the Hamabul? Ad kedei kach, that the Kamarna, in his commentary to the Zohar, says the gematria of Taraf Befiha is none other than David ben Yishai. Taraf Befiha is gematria David ben Yishai. Okay, so I want to share with you some thoughts that I had about the Hamabul that I wasn't exactly sure what to do with, but this gave me some more direction. I always wondered about the mitzvah of destroying Amalek. Really? We have to destroy a people, Amalek? Isn't that cruel? Does God want us to do that? You know, like whenever people question the morality of something, even if it's not, they say, does God want us to do that? Doesn't sound like a liberal idea. Well, does God really want us to destroy Amalek? The pasuk says, Amalek. And I realized, and I think I mentioned this last week, that the word emcha actually was used for the first time by God. Vayomer Hashem, emcha es ha'adam. I will wipe out man asher barasem me'al pnei ha'adama, me'adam ad behima ad remes v'ad oif hashemayim, ki nichamti ki asisem. For many years I was taken by this word emcha. Why does it say emcha in context of the Mabul? Isn't emcha a word that's used by Amalek? And I wanted to say, and I think today I'm going to say it, that the mitzvah of destroying Amalek is a mitzvah of emulating HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That just like God Almighty obliterates the evil from the world, we have to emulate Him. And the same way God obliterated, He was moicha, the memory of the Dar Hamabul, that's what we need to do to Amalek. After all, I wanted to say, it says Emche by the Mabul, and it says Emche by Amalek. So the reason why I never picked up on this is because I would have expected that if the Baal HaTurim would have said anything, it would have been in Parshas Bereshis. But, sure enough, the Baal HaTurim does, but he does it in Parshas B'Shalach, where it says Emche by Amalek. It says, look at number 6. Says the Baal HaTurim, second line, Emche beis b'Mesorah, Hacha Emche zeichar Amalek mitachas hashamayim. And the other one is by the Mabul, Emche sa'adam. Now, what's the connection? So I was saying something more than this, and we're going to come back to it, but the Baal HaTurim just says, Ma hasam nimchu kol asher baratz af Amalek tzrichim l'chaysai, shelo yishar lo yisham zeichar. Just like by the Mabul, everything was destroyed. Their homes, their animals, even the earth. So too by Amalek, we cannot leave even a vestige of remnant of them. That's why Shaul was punished. Because Shaul left over a remnant. By the way, so that's what the Baal HaTurim draws a comparison between the destruction of the Dar Hamabul and the destruction of Amalek. The same way the Dar Hamabul was wiped out without any vestige or any remnant, so too we need to do that to Amalek. But there's another very interesting seeming connection here. And that is a Soifei Tevois that I always wondered about. At the end of Bereshis, in the context of the Mabul, it says, Vayar Hashem, God saw, Ki Rabba Ra'as Ha'adam, man was evil, Ba'aretz. V'chol yetzer machshavos liba, in all the inclinations of the thoughts of his heart. Rak, ra, kol, hayom. We're only evil all day long. And I always thought, wait a second, look at the Soifei Tevois here. Amalek! How is God describing the Dar Hamabul? God is describing Dar Hamabul. Rak, ra, kol, hayom. Only evil all day long. Ra ends in an ayin. Hayom ends in a mem. Kol ends in a lamed. Rak ends in a kuf. Amalek. So here, I thought to say, and I would like to suggest, that somehow the evil of Amalek was detected in the Dar Hamabul. This is indicated in the Soifei Tevois, Rak, Ra, Kol Hayom. And therefore, the same way we have by Amalek, Kimacha Yemcha Zecha Amalek, the Baal HaTurim already draws an analogy between Kimacha Yemcha Zecha Amalek and Emcha Sa'adam Asher Asisi. Now, in these words, Rak, Ra, so I looked around. Does anybody say this remez, Rak, Ra, Kol Hayom? And sure enough, in the world of Ger, by the Ger Chasidim, this is a very big remez. And as you know, that I'm a Ger Chassid, so it fits it right in. But the truth is, I really am. My father's father was the secretary of the Ger Rebbe in Europe. He's actually nifter at 26 years old, doing a shlichus for the Ger Rebbe. Anyway, the Imrei Emes says in number 8, Isa b'medrash she Haman hayuloi shin samachei yoyatzim. Haman had 365 advisors. Kaminyan yemais hachama, like the number of the days of the sun, meaning of the same number as the solar year. Zeh remez l'klipa. So every day he had another advisor. Now listen to this. That means every day Haman was doing bad. Why? Because what's Amalek? Rak, ra, kol hayom. He's evil every single day. So that's why Haman had 365 advisors. Because since Amalek is rak, ra, kol hayom, so he needs another advisor to advise him to commit treachery every single day. Rak, ra, kol hayom. So by the way, the Likutei Yehuda from the, I believe the brother-in-law of the Sfas Emes, or the son-in-law of the Sfas Emes, he quotes the Pnei Menachem that Amalek is also Rashi Tevois, Kadesh Atzmecha Muterlach. Kadesh Atzmecha B'Muterlach. So I would interpret that, he interprets it a little bit differently, that the way Amalek gets a person to sin is through the Kayach Achila, and the way to overcome him is Kadesh Atzmecha B'Muterlach. Interestingly, in the Chamra Tava, he brings that in Bamidbar it says when there will be a war in your land for an enemy that comes, and it says that the remez to Mechemes Goig in the future, this is a remez, the Balaturim says, to the Mechemes Goig Umagog. Now we know that at the end of Mechemes Goig Umagog will be the completion of the destruction of Amalek. He is the ultimate Sar Hatzar Eschem. By the way, the Soifei Tevos of Hatzoirer Eschem is Mar, bitter. That's the Gematria of Amalek. So this pasuk of Echisavayu Melchama B'Artzchem Al Hatzar Eschem is the Soifei Tevos is Gematria Amalek. Since he causes Rak Ra Kolayoim, which is Soifei Tevos Amalek, so it is appropriate that he will be nisbatel through these chatzoitzrois, which is a trua. The gematria of trua is rak ra kol hayom. Now watch this one last remez over here. We say that Amalek is rak ra kol hayom. Watch this. What's Amalek? Rak, Ra, Kol Hayom. All falsehood is from Amalek. All evil is Amalek. When you remove Amalek, you get Emes. You ready to watch this? Take the Kuf out of Reish, take the Kuf out of Rak, take the Ayin out of Rak, take the Lamed out of Kol, take the Mem out of Hayom. What do you get? Reish, 400, 420, 425, 435, 441, Gematria MS. Rak Ra Kol Hayom. When you take Amalek out of Rak Ra Kol Hayom, then you get the truth. All evil comes to the world because of Amalek. When Amalek is removed, you get the truth. Says the Yoidei Bina, the son of the Bnei Yissaschar. Amalek is the source of all sheker. Machai Timche, Emche, is Rashi Tevois Emes. The words Emche, Machai, and Timche, which are the words that are used to eradicate Amalek, then you're left with the truth. Now, Rabbi say, to me there seems to be very compelling information that there's some comparison between Amalek and the Dar Hamabul. Namely, what's the comparison between Amalek and the Dar Hamabul? The comparison is that we find by both of them the expression Emche. We find the allusion to Amalek, Rak Rak Kol Hayom, and now I found in a sefer last night another very amazing similarity. And that is we only find 2 times in the whole Tanakh God regretting. Where we have in Bereshis, Vayinochem Hashem ki asas Adam, God reconsidered making man, Ba'aretz Vayisatse V'aliba, and he was saddened. Ad Kedei Kach, where it says, Ki nichamti ki asisem. I feel bad that I made man. I feel bad that I made man. Where else do we find that God says, I feel bad that I made someone? that I did something. We find that when Shaul did not destroy Amalek, God said, Nichamti, I feel bad, I regret, ki amlachti l'Shaul as Shaul Amalek. I regret having made Shaul a king. Ki shav me'acharai, v'es devarai lo hekim. Vayichal l'Shmo, Shmo was angry, vayizak l'Hashem gal halayla. 2 times in Tanakh, God regretted. He regretted creating man in the times of TorahAnytime, and he regretted Shaul was the king for not killing Amalek. And then it says Shmuel would not go to see Shaul anymore until the day of his death, because Shmuel mourned over Shaul. And Hashem regretted that he made Shaul the king. Says the Malbim, where else do we find that somebody regretted? Nichamti. Kol makom shaba hisnachamas. Whenever we find the word hisnachem etzel Hashem, that he was misnachem on an act that he did, he wanted to remove it. He regretted it. Kikiyim called Hashem. The existence of anything is dependent on God's desire. And when we get something, it's like it never existed. Like it says, Kinichamti ki asisem. This is a gezerah where there's no hope to do tshuva. So there's 2 things in this world that God regretted. God created man in times of Hamabul, and God regretted making Shaul as the king. You know why? It has to be that the Ra of the Dar Hamabul is comparable to the Ra of Amalek. And the same way the Ra of the Dar of Amalek was so evil that God has to obliterate it. The Ra of the TorahAnytime was so evil God had to obliterate it. Ad Kedei Kach, he said, I regretted making them. And that's why when Shaul did not destroy Amalek, God also said, I regretted making Shaul as the king. And then Rabbi say, I found the Zohar HaKadosh that the Shoresh of Amalek is the TorahAnytime. Amazing. The Zohar says explicitly, who is the TorahAnytime? Inon nishmasayim misitra de'ilan de'inmar b'hoin ki shamayim ka'ashan nimlechu. Their souls comes from the side about the ones who it says about them that the heavens are like smoke. The ilain inon d'lei boi Noach rachmei alayu. These are the ones that Noach did not pray for. Ve'idmar b'hoin. It says about them vayimachu min ha'aretz. You know why Noach didn't daven for them? We always say over the Zohar that Noach was criticized, but here we're learning that Noach had a cheshbon for not davening for them. Begin dehavu me'ilain de'inmar b'hoin timcha zecher Amalek. The TorahAnytime were the ones about whom it says, destroy the memory of Amalek. Ve'ilain inon deshtar me'ilain de'inmar b'hoin vayimach es kol yakum. They are the ones about who it says about them they should be obliterated. And they're left over in the 4th galus. Inun reishin bikuma sagid inun kamal yisel kli chamas aleu inmar kimal chamas mibneim ilain inun amalekim. The TorahAnytime was Amalek. That's why God says emcha. That's why it says twice in Tanakh emcha by the TorahAnytime and Amalek, because TorahAnytime was Amalek. And that's why it says nichamti by the TorahAnytime, the same way it says nichamti that Shaul did not wipe out Amalek. And that's why Amalek is merumaz, rak, kol hayoim. Now, we know that right after God said, I regretted making Shaul the king, so what happened? Shmuel came along and he killed Agag and he killed Amalek. And when Amalek's gone, who could come to power? Then David HaMelech becomes the Melech. So too we could suggest that after God spent 365 days, by the way, we could say, Mamish a new Chiddush I just realized, that why was the Mabul 365 days, connected the solar year? Because since Amalek is rak, kol hayoim, they're evil every 365 days. Like the Imrei Emes says, that's why Haman had 365 advisors, because he has to be evil all 365 days a year. So to obliterate Amalek, we need a cleansing process of 365 days to get rid of, to overcome the rak, kol hayoim. Because this, the Zohar says, is rooted in the evil of Amalek. And therefore, when the Mabul is over, where does the Yoina go? The Yoina goes to be Mamlich, the Malchus Beis David, and the Melech HaMashiach. Because the same way in Shmuel, so long as Amalek's around, God is not happy. When Amalek's destroyed, then David becomes the king, so too by the Mabul. After 365 days and the Rak Halayim is eradicated, now it's time to be Mamlich, the Melech HaMashiach, because the part of the coming of the Geula is we need to destroy Amalek, and then we're Mamlech HaMelech. So I saw a little bit of this in a Sefer Hoid Malchus, or Chaim Weiss. He brings up this idea that the word Nichamti, regarding God's regret, is only found in two places, Malchus Shol and the Mabul. Another similarity he brings, but this I had thought of, I think we even mentioned it weeks ago, and I actually mentioned it a couple of years ago. It says Emche by the Dara Mabul, and it says Emche by Amalek. Furthermore, he quotes the Zohar that the souls of the Dara Mabul were rooted in the souls of Amalek. And the Shoresh Nishmas Amalek is Misitra the Dara Mabul, about whom it says Emche. And then he brings another amazing thing. You know what other similarity we find? We find the similarity that just like God swore that He's not going to bring a Mabul to the world to be able to Mekayim Emche, so too God also swears that He will maintain the Malchus Beis David forever and ever. So, amazingly, God swore 2 times. He swore not to bring another Mabul, and He also swears He's not going to be Mekayim Emche again. He swears L'gabe Amalek that He's going to be Mekayim Emche. So Rabbi say it could be that is the reason why it says Nichamti in both places. Because the same way God regretted creating man because He needed to be Moicha them, because they were the source of Amalek, God regretted making Shaul the king, who he was not Mekayim, the inyan of Kimachai Emcha. And Marav Rabbi say this is quite a remarkable understanding of this narrative, and why the Malchus Beis David and the Melech HaMashiach is Nimlach after the story of the Mabul, because once Amalek falls, that is the opportune time for the Aliyas Malchus Beis David. We should all be Zoicha that on this Shabbos, Noach, when we read that in the mouth of the Yoina, V'hinei alei zayis taraf befiha, that B'gematria taraf befiha is David ben Yisha. We should be Zoicha to see the Malchus Beis David come to fruition. B'mher v'yameinu amen. Wishing everyone a great Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.